goes a little something like this. He's a grizzled young vet, he's a grizzled young vet. He's worked so many towns that sometimes he forgets. Doesn't matter if he's curtain jerking or the main event. Cause he's a grizzled young vet, he's a grizzled young vet. He's worked so many towns that sometimes he forgets. Doesn't matter if he's curtain jerking or the main event. Cause he's a grizzled young vet, he's a grizzled young vet. The house was so packed that he thought it would blow, cause he had a ton of color down in Puerto Rico. He's a grizzled.
And we're live, ladies, gents, boys and girls, children of the universe. Welcome to the 60th edition of Kayfabe Corner, where I, JBO, join personas. Since down with somebody involved in the world of pro wrestling, we talk, well, the world of pro wrestling. This week we got the one, the only, Bobby Chrono. Bobby, how are you?
I'm feeling very special now that you said 60th edition.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I'm pretty excited to be here. That theme song got me pretty pumped up.
All right, credit to Luke Gallows. Please don't sue me, Luke.
That was fantastic. I was like, wow, okay.
I was playing it. I was playing it at the con.
Must have been in the back changing or something when it was on.
But that is the first question I have for you today. How are you physically, spiritually? How is Bobby Chrono doing?
Honestly, I'm doing pretty well because this week I had 5 matches and each one of them was a victory.
Oh, not only 5, but 5-0.
5 for 5. Let's go.
And
it started off with the title defense. Just remember that.
Yes, you and Jason Caesar opening up. As I said, set the tone, and you did, which we appreciate you for. And let's start, of course, with the origin story of just you in general with pro wrestling. Where does pro wrestling first come into the life of you?
Well, it came in when I was about 7 years old. It was a negative experience, actually, if I was to say so myself. I don't know if you remember the match with Triple H and Kane, the one for the World Heavyweight Championship, where Kane lost, he had to take his mask off.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah, so Kane lost and he took his mask off, and a young Bobby Chrono was traumatized from wrestling for a very long time. Yeah, it took me about 5 more years to get back into it, I had some personal issues going on at the time. Like, there was a death in the family, and I found wrestling to be a very helpful distraction. And from there, it just became a love, like a passion of mine, actually.
Who was the original person that you really gravitated towards? Like, who was the number one guy for you?
It's funny because he just came back to WWE, and everybody's really kind of high on him now. But back when I was first getting in, my guy was CM Punk, and nobody was behind him.
What?
It was 2008, and it was during CM Punk's first World Heavyweight Championship run. And everybody was just like, oh, look, CM Punk's world champion. Okay, that's cool. And now he's just kind of like one of those godly figures in wrestling, and it kind of just shows how times change.
Yeah, Gallatin Stay One. I do have his arm. I got to find his arm. But
that is the era of CM Punk that I came into, and I was just a huge CM Punk fan.
No, I'm with you. I've been down with Punk since Ring of Honor, so I was always pushing for the guy. That's cool to hear. Where's now jumping into you actually getting involved? When do you decide, okay, I got to get into this thing? Where does it begin? Where are you? How old are you? Just tell the whole story.
Okay, so I was 17. I had just moved up to Orlando for college. And I was a huge wrestling fan, but I never thought it was something that I could do, like, really. I didn't know how to even get started with it. And it just so happened that I had 2 other wrestling fans on my floor. One that was from my original area, which was Fort Lauderdale. He's like, come out and train with me a couple times down at CCW. And I was like, wait, you can just go train? You can just go slide in the ring and just you can do that? And he was like, yeah, just come out with me. And I was like, okay. So I went out there and I just worked out a couple times, and I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. and then I came back to Orlando, and it kind of evolved from there.
So when do you who do you start training with then kind of more on a full time basis?
On a full-time basis, it was in between. I had some training with good lord, it's slipping my mind now. I'm thinking of his shoot name right now, Simon Gotch, because I called him by his actual name for the longest time, and that's why I was like, God, why is it just completely slipping?
Is his name Ryan, or is that another shoot, or is that another?
It's Seth.
Oh, see, okay,
yeah. So that's why I was like, oh, why did I want to say Seth like out of the gate? And I've been also training with Vertigo. I had a few training sessions with Sammy Callahan at the beginning as well. But a huge part of my training actually goes to my tag team partner, Ray Zeon. Because honestly, when it comes down to it, he saw potential in me when I first started out because I wanted to do things that a lot of people were kind of afraid to do. And at that point, he kind of would just teach me things, and he'd be like, no, if you're doing it this way, it's going to be a lot harder to do it. If you go and do it this way, it'll make it so much easier for someone of your size. And from there, he kind of just took me under his wing, and that was 9 years ago.
Yeah, time has flown by. You also refereed for a little bit here. Any experiences as a ref? Is that something you enjoyed at all, or were you always kind of looking to get past that?
I loved reffing, but I kind of saw it as my way of getting to my ultimate goal, which was being a wrestler, which is what I knew I could do.
I'm always fascinated in the origin story of a name. Why Bobby Chrono? Where does that come from? What made you go
okay. Bobby Chrono? So it's funny you asked that because that was not my original name. My original name was Bobby Blaze. Okay. I lost that name.
Bobby Blaze?
Okay, I lost that name. Well, Bobby, that's my middle name. I was named after one of my uncles who passed before I was born. And that kind of meant something to me, and I knew it would mean something to my family. But when it comes down to it, I preferred that name more than Jay because, let's be honest, there's so many Jays that made it so successful. Like, there's Jay Lethal, there's Jay Briscoe.
Your first RPW match, I have you listen under Jay. Jay, and then
I remember that.
On Facebook.
And then I told you put some respect on my name.
No, that's what I was told. Because I always try to make sure, I'm down for, let me know what your name is.
I know you were.
I was told that's
job.
what you were billed as. That's what I was told your name was.
But when it came down to it,
that gauntlet at the suicide prevention show.
Yeah, when it came down to it, I wanted to make the name Bobby Chrono mean something because the name Bobby meant something to me. And the Chrono part, let's be completely honest. Chrono, it means time, and I feel like my time is now, but there's also a few other little things that kind of play into it. So one of my favorite games growing up was a game called Chrono Trigger, and the artist behind it was Akira Toriyama, who also was for Dragon Ball Z. He just passed away earlier today.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of wanted to play into that as like I like these things and these are part of my character. On my gear, there's a lot of anime inspired things. So the code I walk out with is Demon Slayer. It's based off of one of the main pillars, who's one of the higher ranking in the show. And then I have gear to match that with the fire and the water. So there's that. I also have some Dragon Ball Z because that it was one of my favorite growing up. But when it came down to it, I just wanted to take some of the aspects of my life that meant something to me and bring it to wrestling.
We skipped it though. We got to go back. What happened to Bobby Blaze?
Oh, okay. Well, so the Blaze name was kind of just a generic thing until I could come up with something else. But then I was kind of forced to come up with something else because during my second show, I don't know if you know who Powell Blaze is, but she was on 90 Day Fiancé. She was having her first match ever. and her star power obviously outranked mine, so I had to change my name.
Really? They couldn't have two Blazes?
No, absolutely not. It was just
Okay.
absolutely impossible. So Bobby Chrono was kind of born on the spot at that moment. But the name Blaze kind of came from my dad. I was having a conversation with my dad, and I think he was the one who was like, "Hey, why don't you use that name?" And I was like, "Okay, why not?" I don't know where he came up with it, but I was like, "Sure. Since you said it, I'll go ahead and use it."
How many times did you wrestle as Bobby Blaze? Do you remember?
Twice.
Just twice, Bobby Blaze.
Twice.
Um,
There was here and there.
Do you remember your first match ever?
Oh yeah, I do.
Let's talk about it.
All right, so my first match was actually against my former tag team partner. I don't know, Tiberius Wolf. Shout out Tiberius. Okay. He left a handprint on my chest. Yeah, it was a really short match, but everybody was like, when I got to the back, everybody was like, "Hey, how many matches have you had?" I was like, "That was my first one." They're like, "You have potential. Just make sure you keep your arms in for that power bomb. I don't want to see you break your elbows." So, like, I remember some little things here and there, but I just remember me going into that match being like, well, I'm always nervous about doing this. I never wanted to go in there. I kind of stayed away from the ring for a very long time and stayed in the ref position because I was nervous about messing up my matches. So when I went in there, I came in with the mindset of if I mess up or if I do anything wrong, at least I said, or at least I did what I said I was going to do when I was 12, when I said I was going to be a wrestler one day. So I went in there, and when I got to the back, everybody was like, "That was actually pretty solid for your first match." And I was like, "Okay, I think I can do this." And here I am 3 years later.
Fantastic. How is the injury bug treated you? Anything bad happened to you yet, or knock on wood, you're doing good so far?
I had one concussion, but other than that, I'm doing pretty okay.
Fantastic. And can you tell us what happened?
I don't like to talk about it, but I can.
You don't have to. It's up to you.
It was an accident. It's one of those things where it's the wrestling isn't ballet conversation. So it was a tag team match, and they were going for a double team move. One person was going for a knee, the other person was going for a super kick. I took the super kick fine. The knee came and clipped me in the back of my head, and that's where the concussion comes in.
That's simple as that sometimes. What are some of your favorite promotions you've worked for over the years?
Whew. I mean, obviously, Real Pro. You guys are treated.
I wasn't pitching.
Well. Obviously, Real Pro. There's Real Pro. Riot is a great one. Local Pro is always fantastic because they always have so many different faces coming in, and they're not bringing in just big names. They're always trying to push newer people. So I can always just advocate for those types of promotions. Then CCW down south, I have not been a part of it, but I know that they're making waves. Division Pro Wrestling, that's a great one. Tampa Bay Pro just recently got back in over there. And we're about to start making some trips up to Philly, and I had a few up in Georgia, but I'm not sure if those promotions exist anymore. I think they were kind of just one and done, so it was kind of just interesting, just kind of getting my foot into those doors and just seeing how everything was running.
You kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but maybe if you could expand or kind of reiterate. If somebody asked you, who is Bobby Chrono, what would you say?
Honestly, Bobby Chrono is really just... It's the inner thoughts of Jay McNeil. Have you ever watched Key and Peele?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so you know Barack Obama's anger translator?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
Luther,
Bobby
right?
Chrono. That's Bobby Chrono. Just 100%.
He's your Luther.
a lot of the times when I'm saying things to people, it's really what I'm thinking, and then I think to myself, I'm like, hmm, I really should put the filter back on a little bit more, like when I'm out there. But honestly, it's just fun being able to be myself more, like just being able to turn it up way more in the ring. Because Bobby Chrono isn't something I have to come up with. It's actually a part of me.
I like it. You explained, you talked a little bit earlier about Ray Zion. Talk to me a little bit more about that relationship. Where did you guys kind of meet and click at, and what's like being kind of teaming with him?
We actually started training down in Orlando and we started just talking together. It was during a roll drill. I was just sitting there. I was like, hey, you like anime? He was like, yeah. I was like, what do you watch? And then from there, we kind of just started hanging out all the time. And it was just us watching New Japan, us just hanging out watching Gundam or just Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, and then just talking all the time. And even when I was away from wrestling, like Ray was one of the people who I'd always make it a point to see. So when I came back, it was kind of just natural for me to start riding with him. But it's kind of one of those things where I think back on it and it's kind of funny. But I had a conversation with him when I first started training with him. I was like, hey, I feel like me and you should team up with one day. This was about 9 years ago. I was like, I feel like me and you would be really good if we teamed up one day. And he's like, yeah, I think so too. And then it kind of just happened and we kind of clicked. And I was like, you remember that conversation that we had at training? He was like, yeah, I know.
Do you have a preference of a tag team or a singles match? Do you enjoy both, or where do you see yourself in like a few years? You still focusing on one or the other?
When it comes down to it, I prefer to work tag because I've just gotten to the point where when honestly, when I know it's me and Ray out there, it's not like I'm way more comfortable, but I know if anything is to happen, he always has my back. And even if it's a singles match, he will run out and have my back regardless if anything was to happen. But I feel like now is my time to work more singles matches because I need to show what Bobby Chrono can do because I've shown what Bobby Chrono can do as a part of the House of Spades as a tag team, but I haven't shown my singles kind of prowess yet. And I feel like everybody's going to be way more surprised when they see me out there by myself than when they see me out there with Ray. And next few years, I kind of want to see myself as the first ever real pro Grand Slam champion. I just need 2 more titles for that one. The Coastal title, no avail, I'm coming for you. And the Top Crown, which is in the House of Spades. And if we decide that we need to, we can just freebird it. You know, people can do that. No one's saying that there's no
Freebird the top
it.
title.
Hey,
I'm gonna check the management. I don't know if I like.
Hey,
that.
Listen, I have a great example of that. Michelle McCool and Layla.
Great example. It's not the main title of the company, but
all right, okay, cool. Well,
just challenge Ray. There you
go. I don't even know if I can confidently say I could beat him at this very moment. Let's be honest. But I don't feel like we should cause any dissension within the house because
iron sharpens iron. Come on,
iron sharpens iron. But have you seen how many times that those iron sharpen iron matches turn into somebody turning on somebody else?
Yeah, I'm not trying to start no beef. I'm sorry.
Me either, especially not with somebody who's 6'5" and 280 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big one. What are some of your favorite matches you've had? Who have you really clicked with?
Sean Hawley, top opponent for sure. I got to grow through our matches, and he kind of helped me grow myself as Bobby Chrono, the character, because when I went up against him, I had to come up with a lot of handed and shady things to do. For sure, Jason Caesar is up there. I've worked with him twice, and I can already tell that he's really, really talented. Tag team Hellhounds for sure. Exodus. I haven't personally worked the Gifted, but Ray and Tiberius did, and the Gifted were definitely up there. Christian Mills, I worked him in a tag team match, and he's definitely going to be somebody to look out for in the next couple months, if not now. But that's definitely the list that I have of some of my top opponents that I've worked.
I'm going to ask you a very serious question, so I need a really serious answer. Have you seen any good movies lately?
The Iron Claw. That was
right
a
on.
great one. Oh my god. Just Zac Efron killed his role.
Fucking Zac Efron killed it. And Zac Efron just had a movie dropped like a couple days ago with John Cena in it.
Yeah, I saw. I'm definitely gonna watch that after this. I can't really think of anything else that I've seen recently. I don't really go to the movies very often. I usually go back and watch like older movies that I've already seen a couple times. Like,
well, that's fine. Just what comes to mind as what's a good flick? I need a couple. Come on.
Honestly, Gangs of New York is always going to be my top five.
Okay.
That's a really good one.
Scorsese, all right.
One of my personal favorites is it's a weird choice. Everybody's gonna look at me kind of funny for it, but it's kind of like it has sentimental value to me. Boondock Saints is always kind of funny to watch, just watching all those hokey scenes and Willem Dafoe just acting a fool. Other than that, like nothing really. I can't really think of anything else that I've watched other than those two. And it's just because I've had like company over and I'll be like, hey, you guys want to see this awesome movie?
Let's do a bit of a role play here. It's after a show and a little kid comes up to you and goes, hey, Mr. Chrono, I really liked your match. I want to be a wrestler one day. What would you tell someone that's aspiring to be a pro wrestler?
Am I a face or a heel?
You're Bobby Chrono. You just finished being Bobby
honestly
Chrono, so I guess a heel probably.
Let's be completely honest. If somebody's coming up to me with that, I'm gonna look at them from the place of where I came from and where I am now. Because Bobby Chrono wasn't always a champion. Bobby Chrono started out getting beat up by his tag team partners. Because my first two matches were Tiberius Wolf and then Ray Zion. So it's kind of, I look back at where I started and I'm like, if you try hard enough and you work hard enough and you're talented enough and you're as handsome as me, maybe one day you can be a champion just like Bobby Chrono, kid. That's how I would pitch it.
That's not fair. No one's as handsome as you.
You are.
Well, besides us, like
okay.
the obvious Clooney pit of the companies.
I mean, you gotta kind of just pitch it how you want it to be sold. And when it comes down to it, I want people to be able to chase their dreams. And if they want to give it a fair shot and they want to work for it, they can go ahead and they put the best foot forward. Always put your best foot forward. And if you just keep, maybe one day you'll be at WWE, at TNA, somewhere like that, because that's where I'm working to be. I know that this isn't the end all be all, and it's great, but I want to make Bobby Chrono mean something to people. I want people to be like, hey, so you remember that little kid that we used to make fun of, or you remember that guy that we used to always just, say that he couldn't do it, because I had a lot of people literally look at me and laugh at me over the years and be like, no, you'll never be able to do it. And they have to look on my Instagram and my Facebook and see pictures of me clearly getting beat up, but at the end of the day, I'm getting the victory and I'm walking out with gold. And they're like, wow, you actually proved us wrong.
I like it. I like it. We're kind of wrapping up the show at the moment here, so we're kind of at that. Any plugs you want to give and where people can reach you? If you have any merch, upcoming shows, stuff like that.
Yeah, you can reach me at 0 Days Without Incidents, the number 0 on Instagram. And then
Okay.
it's kind of a play on how my whole career started. And then there's Bobby Chrono just at Twitter, and Oh No Bobby Chrono on Facebook. If you look for those links, you'll find me there. Also, upcoming shows.
Yes.
So upcoming shows, we have Riots coming up on March 16th. And then there's a local pro show March 30th. The one March 16th is at Volusia Mall. March 30th, it is at Showcases Citrus. And then in April, there's also both shows going on the 27th. So same locations.
Fantastic. Any last words from you, Bobby? Any parting words to the viewing audience?
Honestly, just look out for what I'm going to be doing in 2024 and in the future, because the name Bobby Chrono is going to be something to look out for. I'm going to make sure that everybody's going to hear about me in some aspect, whether it's coming to my matches or somebody just word of mouth or through social media. Bobby Chrono is going to mean something by the end of this year. And you can bet that on the house.
And the house always wins. Hey, right. And before we go, just let Corey C4 know he's not really part of the house. Cool.
No, he's a part of the house. What do you mean?
Dang it.
He's definitely a part of the house.
That totally backfired. All right. For Bobby Chrono, follow him and all his future endeavors here. Looking forward to the future of you, good sir. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. You know all the usual things YouTubers say. Thanks for watching. And till next time, keep it kayfabe. Thank you.
Thank you.